Hello! Welcome to OJ Studios. Please enjoy this week's chapter of what I did during spring break. Chapter 11 Water on a Whim. Water on a Whim is one of the largest indoor water parks in the world. The building that contained the massive water park used to be an old aircraft assembly building that they converted into a water park back in the 90s. Back when I was 9 the first time. I know this because I was one of the first kids in the park thanks to my sister winning a contest. The building is 9 acres long, and on the outside, you could see water slides of all colors coming through the walls of the building and going back in. Even from the highway we could see inside through the large windows and see the vast pool and various kids lined up to ride the slides. "This is going to be awesome!" Abby said from her car seat. "When was the last time you've been here?" I asked. "Never been," Abby replied. "Really?" Justin asked, turning back around in the front seat. "I thought everyone has been here." "I had a pool in my backyard," Abby said. "Mom and Dad didn't see any reason to pay to go to a water park when we had a pool we could go to whenever we wanted." "It must have been so hard for you to grow up rich," Steven said from the driver's seat. I looked over at Abby for a reaction and she just scrunched her up as she mocked him a little. Dash! We all walked into the main entrance of Water on a Whim and stood in line to pay the entrance fee. The sounds of kids screaming and having fun filled the lobby, and I was just itching to go to the park and ride the plunge of nightmares. I had checked my height at home and I almost screamed in delight that I was still over the height of 4 feet 5 inches, I had beaten the height requirements by an inch. The wall that we were next to was filled with murals of underwater life. There was also text about the life of different fish that lives in the rainforest, since Water on a Whim was a rainforest-themed water park. I looked over to Abby, who was reading some of the text. She was mumbling the words of the text just audible for me to hear. I bent down next to Abby and made it look like I was reading the text to her, but instead I whispered, "Hey, be careful, adults aren't used to seeing a 6-year-old reading at a high school level." Abby looked at me and shrugged. "I'm a prodigy," she said in a matter of fact. As we got closer, Steven bent down to act like he was helping Abby with her shoes, but instead of redoing her shoelaces he whispered so only Abby and I could hear. "Lexi, if anyone asks, you're 8 not 9. Steven said. I nodded my head knowing he was trying for the kid's price. Paying $5 for a kid's ticket was a lot better than paying $15 for a regular ticket. Also, "Abby, once we get the ticket, go to the locker room with Lexi, help her out if she needs it." Abby nodded and took my hand. I felt weird having Steven tell a 6-year-old to help make sure I know how to get dressed, but hey, weirder things have happened this week. I squeezed my bag's right strap a little tighter as we got to the front of the line. I must admit I was still nervous about being in public wearing a dress in front of everyone, but I did ease a little when I noticed that no one was really looking at me. Nobody except for Abby, who was holding my left hand and trilling around as if she was a princess at a ball. Note to self: next time I watch a movie with her, make sure it does not have a ballroom dancing scene. Steven paid for the tickets and we each walked up and placed out hands across the counter to get a wristband put on. I had to pick up Abby to get her close enough for the lady to put hers on. Once the lady got all our bracelets on, she handed Steven 2 pieces of papers, who in turn gave one to me. "It's for a locker in the locker room," he said. "You and Abby can share." I nodded my head and walked away from the counter. I looked at the wristband as we were walking off. Since I've been here last, they have changed their wristbands, instead of the crappy plastic ones that you can find at any carnival. These were made almost like watches, except that these did not tell the time. Instead, where the clock would have been on the watch was just molded plastic in a single red LED. They have rapid sensors in them, Steven explained, noticing that I was looking at mine. "With these you can go into the locker rooms and get in line at any ride. But when I need you?" Steven pressed a button on his band and Justin's and I's band lit up and started flashing with a small vibration. "Fancy!" Justin said, looking at his. "Did they have to give me pink though?" I asked. "It matches your dress," Abby pointed out. "And at least you got one." I looked over at Abby, who was not wearing her fit bands. Instead, since she was 6, she was wearing one of the crappy versions of the bracelets to let everyone know she was restricted to the little kids area of the park. "Don't worry, Abby, Once we're done with this week I'll take you back here and maybe you can show me that bikini you've been talking about." Steven said, quiet enough that we could hear but no one else could overhear. We got over to the locker rooms and I started to follow Justin and Steven into the boys' locker room when Abby took my hand and pulled me over to the girls' locker room. Feeling foolish I followed her inside. About this plan.